What's up? How's your shoulder feeling?
Terrible. Thank you for asking,
Oh,
though.
sorry. Did Jordan get you FML paperwork?
He did not.
Okay.
Nor did I ask, so I wouldn't have thought about that.
Yeah, so that's kind of how we start, like, the injury, kind of restriction process. I know you'd said last week, it's hurting you, and I was like, well, we don't have any kind of report on file.
Yeah,
that's kind of
we
how
spoke
we would
briefly about that as well. Can I have a copy of that too?
Sure.
My doctor gave that to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, me and him spoke before you got here about all that because I know you and April and Todd said the same thing, that you guys don't have any paperwork saying that I got injured at work.
It's just a different process, though.
Well, I guess my issue is workman's comp is my issue. I don't know what FMLA is. I think that's just like time off.
FML is it basically gives you your rights to protected leave.
Okay. Yeah, so that was my issue, that it wouldn't be workman's comp because there's no paperwork.
Right.
And I said the same thing to you and said the same thing to George. Like, how is there no paperwork when I said something? It's like, how am I supposed to know nothing was done until I'm told nothing was done? Like, there was no paperwork process.
What do you mean nothing was done?
Like, there's no paperwork. It's like how I told my lead that I'm hurt, and I was like, eventually, can I do ART for it? I know I said that because then a few weeks later, I was put in ART,
mm-hmm.
but I guess there was no paperwork done. I'm like, well, I didn't know.
Yeah, so
nothing was done.
The paperwork that they're referencing is when an accident or injury
takes
place.
Like incident report, I'm guessing is what he's referring to.
Yes.
I'm like, I wouldn't know. Like, nobody said anything, so I'm just like, I'm thinking he took it as any other time, because anytime like I get stabbed or cut or whatever, we all say something, and there's not always an incident report done.
So we have incident reports for that cut, or there was 2 things in there that we had record of.
Yeah. If they're serious, like they've always been, like, if you're gushing blood, which sometimes happens, they've been reported. But besides that, it's like they don't do them.
Even first aid care is reported, so we have record of all that. That's why I was like, I don't see anything.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't understand how there isn't anything. Even sometimes they do paperwork and don't tell us, like, okay, we're gonna write this down or note it, and don't tell us. You know what I mean? As far as the incident reports go, so it's like, how am I supposed to know nothing was documented when nobody said anything to me until now? I'm like, hey, I need a doctor. It's like, oh, by the way, we don't have any information on what's going on. I'm like, well, it sounds like I'm getting screwed out of the situation because nobody did anything and I didn't know about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
So that's what me and him talked about. He said, I need to come speak to you.
Yeah, so how the medical process works, because we don't have record of accident or injury on site, how it works is we go through our vendor. They're called Sedgwick. Basically, you call, you file a claim to say, hey, I'm hurt. I cannot perform how I was hired to perform. And then they'll ask for the same information. And basically through that process, we'll work through restrictions, etc. Because then they'll have the right to communicate with your doctor and your provider versus us. They'll get that documentation, they'll process it, they'll make the determination and work with you.
Alright. Yeah, he said something about doing an investigation into it. As far as talking to everybody, because, like I said, it makes no sense.
Right.
That I should basically have to foot the bill for all of this when me sitting at home eating ice cream doesn't cause this kind of injury. Because they said they think I have a tear in my rotator cuff.
Okay.
And that's obviously not something you get from chilling.
Well, no, right.
So and I asked specifically, like, is this just something? He was like, no, you have to have done something for this to happen. So I'm like, that's my point. Like, something happened.
No, I understand. And just from our perspective, not to say you definitely couldn't get that from eating ice cream, but we don't know what you do.
Yeah, and that's exactly what he said.
Yeah.
I was like, I get all that, but if, like, you ask or, like, look at the camera or ask the lead who I spoke to, it's like, yeah, she said it. And, like, I don't, you know what I mean? Like,
no,
how
I
is
hear
this
what
supposed
you're saying.
to...
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. If there wasn't, like, something on record, though, that actually took place to cause injury, that's where we kind of, it's a gray area. Do you see what I'm saying? And so this process will allow us to communicate with your provider, and then if there's any potential for disability, etc., they'll work through the same processes with you. So they cover our leave management for FML and our short-term and long-term disability. So they'll evaluate your stuff, at black and white value, they're a separate party. And they'll say, okay, these are the restrictions that we need to accommodate. Can we accommodate these? That way we don't hurt you. You know, that way you're not coming here and getting hurt any further. From what you do have going on, you know, because at the end of the day, that's what I'm concerned about. I don't want you to get hurt. I don't want you to be hurting while you're here or do anything to hurt it further, you know. So this is kind of the process moving forward, I would say. Kind of our best approach. I'm going to print this off for you. This has kind of just instructions as far as like, you can call, you can go online. But they will probably ask for this information too, so I'll make sure I get a copy. Do you want more than one copy just in case?
Sure.
Okay. And yeah, they go over disability claims too, so if you have any questions for that, I mean, they're going to be your go-to for sure. So let's start with this, Julia, and then we'll kind of go from there. Because like I said, I don't want you to do anything here that could hurt you further. So we want to make sure that, you know, these accommodations are, because it says no lifting over 20 pounds, no lifting arm above 90 degrees. And then based on your job and its physical requirements, we just have to evaluate if we can accommodate those. If not, we just might have to look at different roles or a different, you know, task while you're here. I'm trying to, because you started in a different role than you're in now, right?
I'm in braid.
Right.
I know.
I think you weren't hired as braid though, right?
No. Well,
Yeah.
which time? No. No to both. But I was in wireline before I moved
That's
to
what I was
braid.
thinking. Okay. And I'm not sure the physical requirements for braid at this point, but we can look into it. And Sedgwick will ask me too, like, what's the physical requirements of the job she's in. They even ask for your full job description. So they do a pretty thorough deep dive on like what's going on, how you're working, you know, what you're experiencing medically. And then they'll kind of give us a foot forward. Let me get you, that, I just printed that off for you.
Morning. Hey, just real quick on those reviews, Betty it looks for Victory and signature.
Mhm.
So I just need to print them off and sign them.
It's for their folders. So honestly, maybe David should, because I think we won't administer them until
Okay.
you're already out skis, yeah?
That makes sense. I just wanted
Okay.
to make sure. I was gonna review them, but I didn't know if I needed to print them out. and sign
If you
them.
really want to sign all of them, you can.
I'm just trying to help out.
Yeah, no, you're good. Okay. So, I think it's pretty straightforward at the top there, kind of the information. Let me make a copy of this.
Oh, Nicole says he has a battery in his office for balloons. Yeah, I was like, I didn't know who was here. I said, I know that's the information or like, I said, I didn't know if we were gonna blow up who was here. So I think it was just straight to be helpful.
Keep the copy and give you back the original if that's okay.
Yeah.
And then I'm also going to print you off a, it's an ADA questionnaire, and basically it goes over accommodations. So based on what you're experiencing, it's going to ask you questions like, you know, what are you doing when it happens, or like, I'll just print it off for you. I'm not the best at repeating that. I'm the type that I have to read it verbatim or it doesn't come out right. Let's see.
I think my doctor said something about that there might be some forms that I need to go in
Yeah.
and see him to get them filled out.
Yeah.
Cause just let him tell it, this is about to be a lot of work.
It shouldn't be too bad, honestly.
Not paperwork, but I have to do physical therapy.
Oh, that's not fun.
So
Yeah.
it's like I have a long drawn out process. coming
Yeah.
up,
It's not fun.
So
Let's see. Should we go ahead and save it? Yeah. So there. Oh, there we go. And basically, any kind of accommodation they're asking about is related to, like, you not being able to do the work that you do. So we would be accommodating in that the job requires you to do it, but what you're experiencing enables you from doing it. If that makes sense. So you'll get this one back to us, and then based on the doctor's note, we'll kind of go from there. So is this the doctor that you're getting treatment from currently for your shoulder?
This is my primary care physician. I'm going to somebody else for physical therapy. They referred me out.
Okay, did you go to any kind of specialist for your shoulder?
No, he said, the only thing that happened is I went to see him, he sent me the x-ray, sent me to a physical therapist to schedule, and then he said I'm probably gonna have to go see an orthopedic surgeon.
That's right. Okay, I was gonna say typically I know that tends to be the specialist that they refer you to. So they'll need to fill out the medical questionnaire. The one that I'm gonna give you is just for accommodation's sake. That way, like I said, you don't do anything to hurt yourself over here. No, it's got somebody's name on here. Hang on just a second. That's weird. Like that's not even one of our employees. Alright. And then kind of once we have this information, we can go from there, Julia, as far as next steps. So yeah, take a look at it and let me know if you have any questions on kind of what it's asking there.
Good morning.
How are you?
Just, I'll come back.
Okay.
The condition for which I request an accommodation.
Yeah, so that's where maybe your doctor could speak to kind of what's going on or help you kind of answer that. I definitely wouldn't know what to list there.
I'll try and schedule to see him.
Yeah, and I mean that can come just from you. So the medical questionnaire I'm gonna send to them separately. It's a pretty lengthier document, but not too bad. I want to say it's like maybe 2-3 pages, but it goes a little more in depth as far as like, here's your job description, evaluate kind of what she's expected to do and where she's at medically, and like where we need to kind of accommodate and make sure that you're not getting hurt. But yeah, the medical questionnaires, I'll show you what it looks like, just to the physician, and it just goes over things like, do you have a physical or mental impairment? Is the impairment substantially limit any major life activities? What's the duration or expected duration of the employee's impairment? So it'll just give us a little bit more further information to understand.
You're sending that to them?
I would need to, yeah.
Okay.
So if this isn't the doctor that is gonna treat your shoulder, we would need to know just who that provider is. That way we can get this information to them.
Okay.
But that'd be kind of our next step. So once we look at kind of, because if we can make the accommodation here, Julie, we don't have to go down that road. You know, if we can evaluate the job as it is, and we can say, okay, we can accommodate these based on what she's, experiencing, then it's just something we document on record to say we can
Well, I
accommodate
know it's
this.
possible. It's always, I've noticed that accommodations always depend on who's doing it. Because there's always stuff that can be done, like, by somebody who has issues. Like, I've saw, like, people who have, like, injured wrists working, so obviously you can't do certain stuff with the injured wrists. And so if they can accommodate those people, they can accommodate other people with stuff. It just depends on if they're willing to do so.
Well,
I've
and at the end of
noticed.
the day, it goes back down to the physical requirements and then the actual responsibility scope. So, for example, no lifting over 20 pounds. I have no idea if your job requires you to do that.
It does.
Right. So that would be something we couldn't accommodate. But the lifting arm above 90 degrees, I don't know about that either.
It
you
does.
know? Yeah. So I don't think we could accommodate that. But there's options. So in that event, what we would do is see first if there's other jobs available for you. Lucky for you, we have a ton of jobs open right now. And then we would just say, okay, here's your options in that situation. So still options. We just have to kind of work through the process, if that makes sense. But yeah, do you have any questions on any of that?
So when is, like, how long do investigations take?
The investigation, I mean, I'm not sure what investigation he was implying just because I wasn't present for that conversation. But
Because you said I can't do workman's comp, which makes no sense because I got hurt here.
no, so that's what we don't have record of. So
yeah, so
the workers' comp doesn't come into play until it's been established that you were injured here.
That's what I'm asking.
Right.
I assumed that's what he meant by investigating and seeing what happened.
Yeah, that's where the incident or accident report would come into play. That's what initiates workers' comp.
Okay. And so because that didn't happen.
Right. I mean, what you're describing is something that you've done here that hurt you, but there's nothing that we have record of.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
There should have been. So I assume that's what he meant by investigating, talking to everybody who I spoke to, or going over the camera footage or whatever to figure out what happened. Because, like I said, something happened.
Right.
So.
And I mean, when did it happen? What date do you remember?
No, that's what he talked about too. Because it's been a while.
Okay.
And he said somebody told him it's been like 3 months, and I'm like, I don't think it's been that long. But if it hasn't, it's kind of shame on everybody that it took that long for me to be able to see a doctor.
Well, that's just it. And in those situations, that's where the procedure comes into play as far as that report being so, anytime that something happens here, there should be record of it, and you should have acknowledged it. Like when we have accidents and injuries here, the person signs off on that report.
Right.
Yeah,
but that's what I'm saying.
missing.
It wasn't one, which is what I don't understand how that didn't happen. But like he said, it's all about. He mentioned it's about like how I may have communicated or how they interpreted what I said that didn't happen, or just like lost focus and stuff because when you're on the floor, it's like 1,000 things going on. Because I even mentioned like before I've been speaking to him on another topic, it took like a month to get that settled because it's stuff here, stuff there, stuff everywhere.
Right.
And he was like, yeah, that's true. That's how it is on the floor. Like if it's not major, like life or death situation, it's kind of prioritized differently. I'm like, yeah, I get that, but something still should have been done, and I didn't know because.
Right.
And we even talked about how some incident reports not even incident reports, but it's documented, but it's not brought to the person who it's about. It's just like, okay, I'm gonna document this, and we're just gonna go on like it's nothing for me to do about it.
Yeah. So in that situation, you should have had something to acknowledge, like I said.
That's what I'm saying. Like nothing happened.
Yeah, and I mean, I can't speak to that. I wasn't involved. I don't know if I was even here when that happened.
I don't think you were.
Yeah. But yeah, unfortunately, we can't kind of go backwards in time. But how we can move forward is just to kind of work through the process that I know, which is just to make sure you don't get hurt any further. Because if the first thing that workers' comp asks for is a record of injury, I don't have that. So even if you were to reach out on your own, they would ask for that, and then they would come to me and ask for that. So yeah, I'm happy to give you that information. I just don't know if they can help you.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah, I just don't know if they can help you. But we can at the very least, try to work through accommodations if we need to. So,
can you email Chrissy?
what do I need to email?
This, I guess my doctor's. I don't know my doctor's note or whatever, but I don't know. I guess so she knows what's going on.
Yeah.
She's unaware.
So whenever we get these, we basically have to work through this process before we can even communicate this. Because this is medical information.
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like not that in particular, but because she was unaware of the whole situation.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, okay, you probably should be looped in, so she kind of decided where people go throughout the day.
Yeah. And then until we get the questionnaire from your medical provider, this would be on a like time frame basis. So like this is on 7/14, for example. So what this says to me is that yesterday, those are the recommendations for you.
Right.
You see what I mean? So
Yeah.
like that's where the medical questionnaire comes into play, because it'll help us understand like how long you'll be treated for, how long they anticipate this going on, how long your recovery may be from any surgery involved, etc. Let me find. I don't know where it's gonna be at, but I will find it.
And so then you're saying I need to fill this one out, not my doctor.
Correct.
Okay.
So that one we'll get back, and then like I said, from there we will take the information that you provide related to your shoulder that you're describing, whoever's treating you for that, we'll reach out to them and have them fill out that additional document I was just showing you. I have no idea why I don't have workers' comp stuff on file here. Let me see. Here.
I know I start physical therapy next week, and I'm not supposed to go back to see this doctor until a week after that. So he didn't really say exactly when I was supposed to see the orthopedic surgeon.
Right. That's what's going to be really critical for us to understand.
So, and I'll probably call today and see if they can tell me about my x-rays.
Nope, that's not it. No, what did I just open it? Oh, that is-
Okay, I have a question.
Sure, what's that?
So it says one of them is asking about your accommodations, right? And the next one is asking how those accommodations will enable, which I believe means help.
Yep.
You do your job.
Yep.
I don't get it.
So basically, this says you have these restrictions, right? So by accommodating those, how will that help you do your job? Essentially, work.
I don't get it.
What do you not understand?
So the accommodations stop you from doing certain things.
So what
I
we
was
would be
supposed to help you.
accommodating, so the accommodation itself would be taking these and saying, okay, the current job that you're in, we can't make the accommodation, right? However, we can accommodate you by, asking you to do a different job or offering you a different job. So that's the accommodation. The difference in
So I have to come up with one.
no. So
You see what I'm saying? Like I don't get it.
no. So and can I see it really
Yeah.
quick?
Unless my English is not making sense.
No, I think it's just it's not
just
something
worded weird.
everybody, and you don't deal with it on a regular basis. I'm used to this verbiage. Please briefly explain how you believe this accommodation will enable you to apply or perform your essential job functions. So you can actually just be matter of fact. You can say the accommodation wouldn't. I need to be able to not do these things to further prevent hurting myself.
Okay, yeah, but that's because I'm like
Yeah.
it's stopping you from doing stuff, so it's not enabling
Right.
you to do it. Okay.
Yeah. So if you're saying like these right here are what you can't do and you have to in your job, I would just say what my doctors
Excuse me.
recommended. What my doctors recommended would prevent me from doing the job that I'm in, or certain parts of it. Does that make more sense?
Kinda. So I don't know. This is just weirdly worded, or weird question.
It is, yeah, and maybe your provider would be able to help too. They're used to that kind of paperwork. I cannot find work comp information. I'm digging for it though. morning. How are you? Yeah. I will find that for you, Julia. Are you in tonight?
No.
You're not? Okay. You'll be back Monday, Sunday night?
Yes.
Sunday night?
Yes.
Okay. I will get that information for you and I'll have it ready for you. I'll put it in a pack. So if I'm not here, either the lead or the supervisor here will have that for you, okay?
Cool.